The scheduled meeting between the Organised Labour and federal government ended abruptly on Friday evening with the representatives of the Nigerian Labour Congress led by the national president Joe Ajaero walking out of the venue because a quorum was not formed. A member of the Labour delegation who spoke on the condition of anonymity said the federal government was not ready for the meeting and none of its senior representatives showed up for the meeting. He said there were supposed to be 3 subcommittees that will brief the steering committee on progress made so far, including the mass transit, CNG and cash transfer subcommittees, but none of them showed up for the meeting. Recall that the steering committee meeting had met with the government delegation on Wednesday, where the 2 parties agreed to reconvene on Friday to get brief from the 3 subcommittees set up to look into various demands. The steering committee was set up by the government to come up with palliatives that will cushion the effect of fuel subsidy removal on the workers. The Nigerian Labour Congress had shown discontent with the federal government ever since fuel prices jumped from 533 to 617 naira per litre and has called for protests on the 2nd of August. Yes, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Sir, you were in the villa. What was the true state of affairs? Was government ready for this meeting or was it not?
The government was ready. The Nigeria Labour Congress came into the meeting about 5 p.m. Before the Nigeria Labour Congress came into the meeting, the Chief of Staff had checked in on the meeting to see if all actors were present. When he saw that Labour representatives were not around, he now went down to the President's office, I think to have some discussions with him. And then before he came back, the Labour leaders had come in. I think the point of discontent for the Labour leaders was that there are subcommittees that were supposed to brief the steering committee, out of which Labour was there, on preparations that had been made so far for palliatives for Nigerians. There was the CNG, the Compressed Natural Gas Committee. There was the Palliatives Committee itself. And then there was a 3rd committee that was supposed to brief. And then based on those briefs, go forward with the meeting. So while the representatives of government that were there were prepared to go ahead with the meeting, the absence of those subcommittees and the fact that the numbers did not form a quorum was what decided the Organised Labour delegation to walk out of the meeting.
All right. What do you think is the implication of the temporary breakdown of talks? Was Organised Labour right to walk out of the meeting?
Well, if you look at its reasons, they are the right reasons. Organised Labour, especially the Nigeria Labour Congress, has been very testy ever since prices went up from 533 naira per litre to 617 naira per litre, because it felt as if maybe government had led it on, you understand, and they were not prepared for that 617 naira per litre without the palliatives coming on board. So no palliatives. Fuel prices have gone further up. Workers cannot get to work. There's hardship around the country. And most people believe that the Nigeria Labour Congress did not defend their interests, you understand, and probably sold out. And so Organised Labour has been upset since that increase in price. So, this was like, the breaking point, and they just had to show their displeasure. Remember that there's a protest that has been organized for August the 2nd, which the Nigeria Labour Congress says there's no going back on.
All right. Now we are looking down to the barrel of a national protest. Is there a way to stopping this protest?
Well, it's negotiations. I think what Organised Labour or the Nigeria Labour Congress is asking for is a reversal of those prices to 533. That was the price before the 617. to allow for palliatives to come into play before there is any, although I don't speak for them, but basically that's what you would see as their mindset. They believe that they were ambushed by this new price and that government is taking them for a ride. And particularly because when they went to that meeting, they felt that the representatives of government that should have been in that meeting were not present. Yeah. You understand? So, yes, negotiations going forward. And I think one way or the other, government has to give something if there has to be some kind of peace in the land. Because if things degenerate to a national protest, all we know is how the protest will start. We don't know where it will end.
All right. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you very much.